everybody, it's Nosh, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to introduce you to the classic characters that were part of the original man-to-man game. And that would be someone named Fiendish Friedrich, someone named John Falcon, someone named Rogan the Reaver, and someone named Willem the Vile. So let's start with Fiendish Friedrich. So Fiendish Friedrich is built on, well, they're all built on 100 points. He's got a strength of 12, dex of 12, IQ of 10, health of 14. His hit points are 14 because in man-to-man that's generated from your health. And his fatigue points are 12, which in man-to-man is generated by your strength. And as we discussed in the first video, 4th edition would reverse these. Because of Fiendish Friedrich's running skill, his basic speed is 8.125, giving him a basic move of 8, and considering his encumbrance level, he is moving at 5, which equates to his dodge of 5. He has no advantages. Abilities-wise, he has Axe Mace at 14, Knife at 14, Running at 13, and Shield at 12. For combat, his Axe does 1d plus 4 cutting, and you have to remember that in man-to-man, the Axe is an unbalanced weapon, but unlike 4th edition, where there would be kind of a U after this parry, the axes in man-to-man must be readied after every single attack or after every parry. So once you use your axe, whether offensively or defensively, you're going to have to re-ready it in order to use it again. And that's also the same for bastard swords. He's got a large knife with which he does 1d cutting or 1d minus 1 impaling. And he could throw the knife, but he could throw it poorly with a skill level of 8. Defenses, he has scale mail, and that's covering all his body. In the basic combat system of man-to-man, your armor is basically body armor, covering you from head to toe. And here where you see DB, you need to read that as PD, or passive defense. So his scale mail gives him a passive defense of +3, and his large shield gives him a passive defense of +4. So anytime he wants to use an active defense, he gets to add basically +7 to his dodge, his parry, or his block values. Inventory-wise, so I've got 2 different sets of inventory here, reflecting both the basic and advanced combat systems. In the basic system, again, armor covers everything in terms of being a full suit. So I've given him the full suit of armor, which weighs a bit more than the piecemeal armor. But when we go into the advanced combat system, I'll change this out. So he has an axe. He's got a large knife, 2 of them. He's wearing a full body armor of scale. And he's got his large shield. So his total weight carried is 81, leaving him at heavy encumbrance. And it should be noted that in man-to-man, when you use a large shield, your weapon skill is reduced by 2. Your parry is also reduced by 1. So I'll try to remember this for Fiendish Friedrich when the time comes. So that's Fiendish Friedrich. Let's take a look at John Falcon. So John Falcon is rather weak. He's got a strength of 9, but he's very dexterous with a dex of 15, IQ of 10, health of 13 hit points, and 9 fatigue points. He's got a basic speed of 7, and he's medium encumbered for a move of 5 and a dodge of 5. he has 1 level of toughness, so that gives him a natural DR of 1. He's armed with a crossbow and he's very skilled with it at 17. He's very skilled with his knife at 15. He's very skilled with his shield and his short sword. So he's got 15 knife, 15 shield, and 16 short sword. In terms of damage, his crossbow does 1d plus 2 impaling damage. And he's not bad at throwing a knife. It would do 1d minus 2 impaling. And he's got 10 crossbow bolts. For hand-to-hand, he's got a short sword, which does 1d minus 1 cutting when swung, or 1d minus 2 impaling when thrust. And his knife does 1d minus 3 cutting, or 1d minus 2 impaling. Defense-wise, he's got heavy leather on his entire body, and he has a small shield, so his passive defense bonuses would total 4. He also has his DR of 2 for the heavy leather, plus the 1 for his toughness gives him a DR of 3. And again, his inventory is broken down by the 2 different combat systems. So he's equipped right now with 10 bolts, a crossbow, a large knife, heavy leather body armor, his quiver, a small shield, and a short sword, leaving him at medium encumbrance. Okay, let's take a look at Rogan the Reaver. So Rogan has strength of 12, dex of 12, IQ 10, health of 12, 12 hit points and 12 fatigue points. He's got a basic speed of 6. He's medium encumbered, giving him a move and dodge of 4. He has 2 levels of toughness for a DR of 2. Abilities-wise, he's got the bow skill, although doesn't have a bow in possession. He's got broadsword 14, knife 13, shield 12, and he could utilize his bastard sword in a two-handed style, but at a very measly skill level of 7. Combat-wise, he's got the thrusting bastard sword that he can use with one hand, and it does 1d plus 3 cutting damage or 1d plus 1 impaling damage. The parry in man-to-man, if he parries with it, he's got to re-ready it. If he attacks with it, he's got to re-ready it. So this is one of those weapons where, yeah, he's going to have to think about how he's using it and how he's using it for defense. If he were to use this bastard sword as a two-handed sword, his skill would drop considerably, as would the parry. He's got no ranged weapons, and defense-wise, he's got chainmail covering his whole body, and he has a small shield. So his passive defense, combined with the shield and the armor, is 5. His chainmail gives him a DR of 4, but with the plus 2 for toughness, his DR is 6. So he can take some damage. And inventory-wise, I've got him armed with a bastard sword thrusting, a chainmail suit, and the small shield, leaving him at medium encumbrance. Okay, let's take a look at the last combatant, and that's Willem the Vile. So Willem is strength 13, dex 13, IQ 10, health 11. He's got 11 hit points and 13 fatigue points. His basic speed is 6, and his encumbrance level is medium, giving him a move of 4. So he and Rogan are matched in terms of their move. According to the man-to-man rules, when you're matched in move, you look at each other's basic speed, and they are matched in their basic speed. I'm not sure how the combat tracker in the Fantasy Grounds GURPS rule set works, but Willem is looking like he's higher. He is higher than Rogan. I wonder if that's because his dexterity is higher than Rogan's. But in the original man-to-man, we'd have these 2 roll 1d6, and whoever got the higher score would go first. So I'm just going to rule that Willem has rolled higher with the 1d6, and he gets to go first in the combat. Let's see. traits-wise, he's got 1 level of toughness. Abilities-wise, he has skill with a crossbow, quite well, 16. Um, 14 with knife, 15 with a polearm, and 14 with a thrown weapon knife. Combat-wise, he's got his halberd, which can do an ungodly amount of damage, 2d plus 4 cutting, 2d plus 3 impaling, and 1d plus 3 impaling. And he'll have to take a ready maneuver if he wishes to change between these grip lengths for swinging, whether that's the axe head or um, the impaling point. However, with his halberd, if he was thrusting with it, he could reach anywhere from 1 to 3. And I'm pretty sure he will have to re-ready this thing after every swing, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just take a look at the weapon stats here. Requires 2 hands. It must be ready for 1 turn to change from a long to short grip or vice versa. Oh, requires 2 turns to ready after a swinging attack, and requires 1 turn to ready after a thrusting attack. Okay, so that's going to be interesting to see in play. Yeah, I guess he is carrying a crossbow as well, and that would do 1d plus 4 impaling damage. And if he threw his knife, it would do 1d impaling. Defense-wise, he has a scale mail for the entire body, and that would be DB, or sorry, passive defensive plus 3. Give him a DR of 4, but with his toughness level, that increases it to 5. And I've tricked him out here for advanced combat, but point is, we're just going to work from the scale mail for his body, and he doesn't have a shield. And in the inventory, you'll see here where he's equipped with 10 bolts. I guess I should equip him with that crossbow, and I'm going to have to go through this just very briefly and rejig this. But basically, as with the others, we'll just have him wearing the full scale mail, and we'll exclude all the other separate pieces of armor. Okay, so let's just take a look at the original descriptions for each of these combatants. Friedrich is an axe fighter. His picture is actually on the original cover of the book. He's a liar, a cheat, and he doesn't fight fair. His favorite tactic in a melee is to spot a foe looking the other way and axe him in the back. He sometimes discards his shield to fight with a knife in his left hand. If fiendish Friedrich fights with his large shield, his axe and knife skills are reduced to 12, thereby reducing his parry to 6. Okay. All right, what about John Falcon? What was the original character description for him? John is a tough, wiry little fellow, quick and skillful, who leaves the heavy work to others. He prefers light armor. The shield he carries depends on the situation. He often strikes for the head or limbs to disable a foe with a relatively weak blow. John is honorable and trustworthy, but a born wanderer. He never stays very long in the same place. All right. What about for Rogan the Reaver? Rogan is a gruff fighter. He shrugs off pain with hardly a thought. The sight of blood, especially his own, sends him into a frenzy. Watch those all-out attacks. Okay. He prefers to use his bastard sword one-handed so he can carry a shield, but sometimes he drops the shield and uses the sword two-handed for extra speed and power. He is shown on the cover of the book fighting Friedrich. And last but not least, we have Willem the Vile. Willem is a dastardly and foolhardy fighter who believes shields are for sissies. He claims that the best way to best a foe is to keep him at a distance. If he never hits you, he can't kill you. His weapon of choice is a halberd, but he'll use a crossbow and throwing knives to keep opponents at bay. All right. Well, let's take a look at some of the original images of these fighters as they appeared in Man to Man in 1985, and then we'll take a look at what AI can do to reimagine them. So here's Fiendish Friedrich from 1985. All right. And here is Fiendish Friedrich updated. Yeah, I couldn't quite get those horns to turn down like in the original. Okay, I'm going to call that back up and close it. Okay, what about John Falcon? Well, there he is in 1985. What's a potential redo of him? All right. And what about Rogan the Reaver? So there's Rogan from 85. Kind of got a Conan image going there. Here's a remake. All right. And last but not least, we've got Willem the Vile. So in Willem the Vile in 85 looked like this. Well, I tried my best to kind of get a full body shot, but didn't work. So here's what I came up with from my prompts. I like that helmet and that gruff look. Okay. Anyway, enough of that. Well, what about a combat map? Well, the one that I enjoyed using the most back in the day was this one. I really enjoyed this. There was a stream, there was a bridge, there were some paths, maybe like a ruin over here, and lots of bushes. So you could like have, archers or crossbowmen hiding in these bushes and popping up to take shots at people. How did I reimagine that using Inkarnate? This is how it came out. I kind of like how it turned out. So we're going to use this map for the combat. I'm going to go and set it up now. Okay, so in the original basic combat system, uh, again, the characters are wearing full body armor. You're going to quickly see, given their passive defense bonuses for the armor and the shields, how that is going to make it very hard for anyone to land a blow on anyone else. I kind of ran a few tests on this. So I'm only going to do this a couple of times just to show you what that was like. And then we're going to do a reset, and we're going to go into the advanced combat system using the partial armor system. But I want you to see what using that original approach to the full body armor, what that looked like. And maybe I'm not doing it justice. Maybe there was just the option for saying, hey, this armor covers every bit of you. But um, if I remember correctly, the idea here is, yeah, if you're wearing chainmail armor, it's covering you from head to toe. Okay, we're going to jump right in. So I'll put the combat tracker up to Fiendish Friedrich, and let me just set up the situation for you. Let's say that our Rogan the Reaver here and John Falcon are protecting this temple area. And let's say that Fiendish Friedrich and Willem the Vile are coming to raid the temple. So we'll get right into the combat. Fiendish gets to go first because of his move score, which is higher because of his higher basic speed. Let's see how this goes. So Fiendish Friedrich has a move of 5. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold that position on the bridge. Our next actor is John Falcon. John has a ready crossbow. So John is going to take an aim, but he is going to take an aim. He'll take an aim on Fiendish Friedrich. So I'm going to target Fiendish. There we go. Now we're going to have to remember that what you're going to see here visually is the range modifier from a 4th edition GURPS perspective, not a man-to-man perspective. So I need to remember to adjust for that. when it comes time for calculating the range modifier. Okay, let's go to the next actor, and that's Willem the Vile. So Willem is going to um, take a ready maneuver. He'll step, and he's going to ready his halberd so that it is in a sort of 2 or 3 yard reach. Yeah, and we'll go finally to Rogan the Reaver. And Rogan is going to move. Let's see, 1, 2, and he'll go as far as, I think he'll go as far as 3. There. Now, with this bastard sword, it's got a reach of 2. He could try to hit Friedrich in GURPS 4th edition with a move and attack, but in man-to-man, there is no such thing. There is no move and attack possible. Okay, so we begin with the next second for each of the characters. So Fiendish, he is going to step, and he is going to attack Rogan. So he will swing with his axe. I'm going to modify this swing because he's using a large shield. So we're going to add that modifier of -2. Let's see if he attacks him. And he succeeds by 1. So Rogan will have to choose an active defense. I'm going to go over to his defenses tab. He doesn't want to parry. He wants to be able to use his broad or his bastard sword. So he's going to try and block. So we're going to add the passive defense from his chainmail. We're going to add the passive defense from his small shield for a total of +5 on top of his block. And he failed by 4. So the hit goes through. So we're going to go back to Fiendish, and we are going to drop the 1d +4 cutting on Rogan. And he does a total of 8 cutting damage. Okay, so we'll go over to the combat tracker, and we'll see here that the injury that ultimately gets through is only 3 points. And why? Because of Rogan's amazing DR. So he did 8 points of cutting damage minus the 6. And anything that gets through is multiplied by 1.5 because it's a cutting attack. And so ultimately he does 3 points of damage. Now you may be asking yourself, does that mean that Rogan is going to be in shock? Nope, there is no shock in man-to-man. So he just takes the hit, and there's no really big penalty for that. So that's Fiendish's action, and he successfully hammers that axe down across Rogan's chainmail. John Falcon's turn. So John continues to aim. I should be dropping an aim, something in there to be tracking the aiming, but because he's the only archer, I'm going to try to remember how many turns he's been aiming for. Okay, so this will be his second turn of aiming. Willem the Vile's turn. So Willem has readied his halberd, and he is going to move. He's got a move, I believe, of 4. And that is accurate. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember I said that he had readied his halberd in such a way that he could go for a swing of 2 or 3? Well, he should be able to reach Rogan here with that. Let's just take a double look, double check at his, yeah, see, reach of 2 or 3. So I think that we'll say that he's adjusted his grip for the reach of 3 at this point. Not 2 or 3, just 3. Okay, so he will be able to swing and see if he can hit. Oh, no, he can't. That would be a move and attack, which isn't allowed. Ha ha ha. So all he can do is move up 2 within striking distance. Okay, so Who's next? It's Rogan's turn. Well, if you remember, Rogan did not uh, do an attack. He just moved, so he can attack with his sword. So what he's going to do is he's going to attack, and then he's going to step back. So let's see if he hits Fiendish. So we'll go to the melee tab, and there's the bastard sword, and 14. And he succeeds by 3. So let's see if Fiendish can try to block this. Down to his defenses, he gets the +3 PD for the scale. He gets a +4 for that large shield, and his block is 4. And he fails by 1. Okay, so let's see what damage Rogan does to him. 1d +3 cutting. So he did a total of 3 injury because of the DR4. He initially did 6, -4 is 2. So in fact, they've just done the same amount of damage to each other in these exchange of blows. So the sword cuts through a weak point in the scale armor. All right. Let's start the third turn of everyone's combat, the third second. You'll remember that Fiendish had swung his axe, so he needs to re-ready this axe. So what he's going to do is hold his ground and ready his axe. Okay. John Falcon has now been targeting him for 2 seconds. Can you move, like take a step and aim in man-to-man? No, you cannot. So he now has to stick with either aiming from where he stands or move, and he will have to lose the benefit of that aiming as best as I understand it. So what he's going to do is shout to Rogan, get out of the way, but he's still aiming. Okay. Willem the Vile will now step forward and make an attack on Rogan the Reaver. I will move the combat map in a bit closer so we can capture these people. I'm just going to shift him a little bit to face that hex. So he's going to now swing with a reach of 3, 1, 2, 3 on Rogan. Now, you might remember that Rogan had chosen to attack last turn, but he also had to defend. He tried to block, if you recall. So he's now being attacked before he gets to his turn, his new turn. So all he can do here, in effect, is dodge this attack. So let's see if he does. Let's see if he hits first. And he succeeds by 2. So Rogan will have to try to dodge this. So here we go. It's got the same chances with his block score, 9 or less. And he fails. So Willem will do 2d +4 cutting on him. And that is a massive 10 points of damage. So let's go to the combat tracker and see the effects. So he takes 6 injury in the end, total. Now, what is Rogan's original hit points? His original hit points were 12. But he did not take greater than half his hit points in damage, so it's not going to stun him. But neither is it going to leave him in shock. So if we apply this damage, he is now at 3 hit points, which means that we have to, just as in 4th edition, we have to half his move and dodge because he is reeling from his wounds. Okay, so that was Willem's attack. Now it's Rogan's turn. Okay, so again, there's no stun here. There's no shock penalty. However, Rogan is going to have to ready his bastard sword because he needs to re-ready it after every swing. So indeed, what he's going to do is he's going to make a step sort of this way. Okay, so Fiendish Friedrich had spent his last turn readying his axe. So he is going to go and close the distance with Rogan the Reaver. Or should he try to advance on the guy with the crossbow and leave Rogan to Willem the Vile? Well, I think what he'll do is at least move up to where Rogan is. So he'll go 2. I also want to allow John here the chance to try and hit him with that crossbow bolt. Okay, so John's turn. Okay, so this is the 4th round, and John has been aiming for 3 turns. So what are the rules about all of that? Aiming, all that good stuff. Well, first of all, he's going to get a +3 for aiming for 3 turns. And that's as much of a bonus he'll ever get for aiming in man-to-man. So let's make a note of that. He gets a +3 for the aim. I'll call up his character sheet here. So we'll just go over to the ranged and call up the crossbow. Now you'll notice there's no accuracy bonus. And if we actually call up the weapon statistics here, what you'll see here is that, let's see. Yeah, the point blank range for this weapon is 5 yards. Well, let's see. How far is he away from him now? I'll move the map over a bit. So it's 4 yards away. Now that's well within the point blank range of his crossbow. So what does that mean exactly? Well, one of the great things it means is he gets a +4 to hit. And it also adds +1 to his damage roll. The other thing to take notice of is that Fiendish Friedrich is well within the first range increment for John Falcon's crossbow. His crossbow's range increment, which of course is not listed here, but it's based off of strength +5, and his strength is 9. So that would be like 14 yards before his effective skill would even drop by 1. So at this point, he gets a +4 for Fiendish being within his point blank range of 5 yards. And if he does hit him, he's going to get a +1 to the damage roll. He also gets +3 for aiming for 3 turns. So his modifier ultimately will be +7. Okay, so let's see if he hits Willem with a +7 on a 17 skill level. You ready? Here we go. So success by 11. Okay. With these moments in GURPS, that's typically where he would have rolled a critical failure and pinned his foot to the floor. But in this case, he didn't. So he's actually hit Willem, or sorry, Fiendish. Okay, so over to Fiendish. So Fiendish can try to block this. No problem. He gets a +4 for that shield. he gets a +3 for his defensive bonus, and he's got a block of 4. And he failed by 4. Well, what luck for John Falcon and his crossbow bolt. Remember, because this is within the point blank range, he gets a +1 to the damage roll. So we'll add that. Let's see if he can actually puncture his armor. Oh, he does maximum damage with that crossbow hit. So he did 9 points of impaling on Fiendish Friedrich. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, so once you account for the 4 points of DR and you double the damage that gets through that, Fiendish has taken 10 points of impaling damage. In GURPS 4th edition, that would be considered a major wound. Well, it's quite similar in man-to-man. Let me explain that for a second. So in man-to-man, when you take more than half your hit points, your basic health, more than half your basic health in one hit, you are automatically stunned. What you have to do is roll versus your health to not be knocked down. So what we can do is, first of all, call up Fiendish Friedrich here. Well, first of all, I'm going to apply that wound. So he's down to 1 hit point, which means that his move and dodge are halved. Okay. Now he has to roll against his health of 14, which is pretty substantial, to stay standing. And he does. But he is now stunned. He doesn't get to roll to try to resist it. There's nothing he can do about this. He is going to be at -4 until his next turn. So let's just go and put that stun modifier onto him so I remember that. Okay, so awesome shot there, John Falcon. Who's next? Willem the Vile. Now you'll remember that Willem, in his last turn, had successfully hit Rogan the Reaver. He's now going to have to take 2 turns to ready this halberd. So let's drop a ready indicator into his combat tracker. All right, it's Rogan's turn. So if you remember, Rogan did take that damage. However, he backed off so he could ready his bastard sword. So now he's going to take yet another step away from Fiendish. But what he's going to do is sort of step this way. And, well, maybe what I'll do is I'll have him change his facing first. So he'll change his facing and take a step after he hits. So let's see if he hits Fiendish Friedrich. And he succeeds by 7, or 6, sorry. Okay, Fiendish, you're going to be at -4 to your what? Well, it sure isn't going to be a block buddy, because you blocked Falcon's attack on you. So all you can do is technically try to parry this blow with your axe, because it was ready, or dodge. And your dodge is pretty crappy. So first thing I'm going to do is drop a -4 for the stun into the mod box. Next thing I'm going to do is come over here. He still gets the benefit of his shield, and he gets the benefit of his defensive bonus, or sorry, his passive defense for his scale armor. But remember that his parry is compromised because he has the large shield. So he's a +2 to try to parry this. Let's see if he does. And he fails by 2. Okay, so what does Rogan do for damage on him? 1d +3 cutting. And he does 7 points of cutting damage. So if we come over to the combat tracker, you'll see here that, yep, uh, 4 points were sucked up by the DR, but what got through was multiplied by 1.5. For cutting damage, he takes another 4 points of damage. This drops him to -3. Okay, so what's the effect on you in man-to-man on your character when they go below 0 hit points? Well, let me explain. So in man-to-man, once your character goes to 0 hit points, and if you're just at 0 hit points, well, you're just hanging on to your consciousness. So if you're at exactly 0, at the beginning of each turn, and I think this is the same in 4th edition, you make a roll against your basic health. And if you succeed, you hang on to your consciousness. If you fail, you fall unconscious. But in man-to-man, as soon as your health drops below 0, you pass out. So, Fiendish took an arrow to the chest or a bolt to the chest. He was stunned by the damage it did to him. Then Fiendish lashed out and slashed him across the chest for another deadly blow. And at this point, Fiendish falls to his knees and falls forward unconscious. And at this point, back in the day, we would have put some sort of like an unconscious person or a dead person counter on the ground, and that's what I'm going to do. So just wait out. Well, to my shame, I am on the road, and I completely forgot to transfer some image files that I had used from the original Man-to-Man to depict some dead bodies. So that's a shame. But they kind of look like this, where there's a bit of blood, and basically it was just a dead body on the ground. Anyway, so ends Willem the Vile. So I'll remove Willem from the combat tracker because he, or sorry, not Willem, Fiendish. So end Fiendish Friedrich. Sorry, Willem, I'm pronouncing you gone before you are. So I'll remove Fiendish Friedrich from the combat tracker. And Rogan has just finished his action. And so the action now turns to John Falcon. Okay, so what should John do? He's got a shield strapped to his back. He's got a crossbow in his hands. Can he reload in time to help defend either himself or Rogan the Reaver? Or should Willem the Vile give up? Well, Willem is not about to give up. But I think what John will do is he will drop the crossbow and he will begin to at least ready his sword. So how many turns does that take in man-to-man? Is it different from GURPS 4th edition? Well, dropping the crossbow is going to be a free action for John. So he's going to drop the crossbow and he's going to ready his short sword. At least that much he can do. Okay, but remember that Willem has to take a second turn to ready his weapon. And he will take a step and ready at this point because he wants to be able to attack Rogan. Rogan is going to take a step back and ready his sword. Which brings us to John Falcon. Now, should John start to ready his shield? It's a small shield. It will take him 2 turns to ready that shield. So he begins to do that. He is going to start to ready his shield. So I'm going to drop another ready indicator there to just track that for 2 turns. Okay, very well. So now it's Willem's turn. He has completed 2 turns of readying. He still has his halberd in a 3-yard reach grip. So he is going to step and attack Rogan by simply doing that, and that'll be well within his reach. So let's see if he can hit Rogan. And it's well, look at that. Folks, we have our first critical hit because, as with GURPS 4th edition, if you roll a 5 on a 15, level skill 15, or to hit roll of 15, that's a critical hit. So just like in GURPS 4th edition, Rogan gets no attempt to defend against this. Now here's where it gets fun. In man-to-man, you don't get a defense against a critical hit, and a critical hit automatically stuns. So Rogan's going to be automatically stunned after he takes this massive damage, whether it's enough damage to stun him anyway. I think he's going to be out of this combat. That's what I think. So let's roll that damage. 13 points of damage. Ouch. Okay, let's go to the combat tracker. So ultimately, he's going to take 10 points of injury. Okay. Now I didn't even roll on the critical hit table. Oh, for shame, Nosh, for shame. Let's take a look at that critical hit table, shall we? All right. Critical hit table, here we go. Let's see what happens. So, normal damage only. Okay, doesn't matter. He's doing that damage, and it's going to take Rogan completely down. So, let's apply the 10 points of damage to Rogan, which takes him immediately to -7 hit points, which immediately causes him to fall unconscious. And so he also goes down. Okay, so we're just going to move the action along. I'm going to remove Rogan because he's out of the combat, which takes us to John. So he is now beginning his second turn of readying his small shield. And Willem is going to begin his first turn of readying his halberd. Okay, so Falcon, he has been readying his shield for 2 turns, which means, in effect, it is ready. So Falcon is going to move. He is going to try to close distance with Willem so that Willem cannot bring his weapon in line to attack. So yeah, Falcon is going to take a move maneuver. And what is his movement? It is 5. Okay. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and get well within Willem's, beyond Willem's ability to attack him with that halberd. Okay, so the action goes to Willem. Now I'm just going to take this ready action off of Falcon. So Willem has to take another turn to ready his halberd. So he will take a step back, and he is going to try to begin changing his halberd from a 3-handed three-yard grip to a 2-yard grip. So he's going to step back and continue readying. And John, on his turn, is going to step in and attack Willem the Vile. So let's see if he can hit him. I'm just going to shift the map over this way so we can call up his character sheet. Okay, so we'll go to his melee, and there's his short sword. So he's going to try and do a swing on Willem's body. And it's a critical hit. Okay. Wow. What a game. What a game. So we are now just going to go over to that critical hit table, and Let's see if his hit does anything nasty. Normal damage only. Okay, so let's, yeah, we'll move this back in here. Okay, so critical hit, he can't defend against it. John, how much damage do you do against him? 1d minus 1 cutting. Ugh. Okay, so you do 0 injury because his DR is so high. Okay, so no injury, but he is stunned, automatically stunned. And I don't think he has to roll to fall down, but let me clarify. No, from what I can see, it cannot knock him down just on a critical hit alone. But Willem is stunned. And what does that mean? Well, he certainly can't attack. All he can do is try to recover from that stun. So we'll drop a stunned indicator here on him. And we'll take that ready off because he did technically have his weapon ready. Okay, so he's stunned. Now the action goes to him. So all he can do is try to recover from this stun. So that's a health roll. And he does. So he recovers from the stun. And I'm going to take that off. Now in GURPS 4th edition, that means he can act normally on his next turn. Let's see if that's the same here. I believe it is, but I'll just clarify. So there is a change. If you recover from stun, you can act in that very turn that you recover. I'm pretty sure in 4th edition, you can roll to recover, but it's on your next turn that you can act normally. Okay, so Willem is going to take a step back. If you remember, he had readied his grip from 3 to a 2-yard reach. He's going to try to hit John with his halberd. So let's see if he does. And he succeeds by 4. So Falcon has his shield up. Let's see if he can defend against this with a block. Now he has a parry of 8 with this sword, which is a little bit better. Maybe he should be pairing with that sword. What do you think? Well, here's the danger. The halberd is more than 3 times the weight of the short sword. So if he does try to parry with that short sword, then there's a 1 in 3 chance that it will break. So does he take the chance of possibly breaking his short sword? Well, folks, shake and bake, that's what I say. So here we go. He'll try to parry that blow. I've got the modifiers in the box. Let's see if he parries it. No, of course he doesn't. He rolls a critical failure. John. What a game. What a game. Let's roll the critical miss table, shall we? I think that's what he has to roll against, the critical miss table. And here we go. A 9. You drop the weapon, or in the case of a cheap weapon, it breaks. Oh my gosh. Okay, so John drops his short sword. Oh my. Okay. I'm just going to pause the combat and add that indicator to John. Well, I've recentered the map. I've added the dropped weapon to John Falcon. But he also didn't parry the damn blow, did he? So let's roll that hideous damage. 8 points of cutting damage. So if we go to the combat tracker, we'll see that John is going to take an injury ultimately of 7 because his DR was 3. So that would be more than half, I believe, his health. Well, his health is 13. But he took 7. Oh, yeah. So that should be more than half his health in a blow, which means that he could possibly be knocked down from being stunned. Let's see here. Okay. I will apply that damage. And we are going to force him to be automatically stunned. And he will also. Oh, and because, well, no, he didn't take 10 or more points of cutting damage. I think that would cause knockback if that were the case. So, nope, he's stunned. What we have to do is check to see if he falls down. And he fails by 2. So he's also prone. Oh my goodness. All right, so let me throw a prone indicator on there. Well, folks, whether in GURPS 4th edition or man-to-man, the critical hit is a critical hit, and it tends to lead to nasty things for your opponents. Okay. Well, guess what? It's John's turn. So John will have to roll to get out of this stun. And he fails by 2. So he remains stunned. Good for you, John. The action goes to Willem. So Willem is going to start to ready his weapon again. Why not? And we'll just put a little ready on him there. Okay. So the action now turns to John Falcon, who has to try to become unstunned. And he succeeds by 2. So he can act in the same turn that he recovers from stun. So I'm just going to remove that stun from him. Now he's prone. So what he's going to do is he's going to grab his sword and he is going to do a change of posture so he can go to kneeling. Okay, so he's now kneeling and he's grabbing his sword. The action goes to Willem, who is going to continue to ready his halberd. And now John Falcon is going to stand. So I'll take off the dropped weapon and the kneeling. So he gets up. Willem finishes readying. Last turn, he can now attack. And so he does. And he will bring that blade down again on John. And he fails by 1. Oh my gosh, the luck, the luck. Okay, or the bad luck, as the case may be. The action goes to John Falcon. John is going to step in and try to attack with his short sword. Sorry, correction. He picked up the sword back here when he was kneeling. Then he stood, and now he is going to ready. I think he could possibly, yes, he could possibly ready as he was standing. So let's give it to him. He's going to step and attack. So here we go. Combat, short sword, and he succeeds by 5. Willem is going to have to try to dodge this. So defenses, scale armor. For his passive defense, does he dodge? He fails by 4. Okay, John Falcon does no damage to him whatsoever. Okay. Willem is going to have to ready his halberd again, so he's going to take a step and ready. John is going to step and attack again. So he will try to strike and roll success by 2. Okay, so Willem again have to try to dodge this. And he fails by 2. Can John do any damage? He does 0 points of damage. Wow. Okay, next turn, Willem's going to continue readying for this turn, but he will step back, and John is going to keep pressing him back. He'll take a step, and he'll do another attack. I'm going to need some more real estate here for these character sheets. So here we go. And succeeds by 7. That could have been a critical. Willem, again, have to try to dodge. And he critically succeeds in his dodging, which I believe forces our friend John Falcon to go to the critical miss table. All right. Here we go. You lose your balance. Okay. So you lose your balance. You can do nothing else until your next turn. All your active defenses are -2 until your next turn. Interesting. Well, Willem has now readied. He is going to take a step back and attack John. Here we go. And he succeeds by 6. So John is going to be a -2 for his defense here. So we add the, sorry, get John on the screen. So we add his his PD for his scale armor and for his shield. And let's see if he blocks, or should he try to parry? Oh, we went through this again, didn't we? 1 in 3rd chance of 1 in 3rd chance of that sword breaking. He'll try and parry. And he fails by 5. So he fails to parry. I believe I had the proper things in there. Yep, his leather, his shield, and the modifier. So damage, good Willem, or bad Willem. Ooh, 12 points of damage. Well, guess what, friends? I apply this. He's at -7. And John Falcon, a halberd slashes through his leather armor, sinks deeply into his shoulder, and forces him to the ground, and he falls unconscious. Well, folks, we have a winner in our combat, and that is Willem the Vile, who has stood the test of the battle unscathed, and he can go over and help his buddy, or he can just kill these other 2 and help his buddy, or he can kill all 3 and go plunder the temple. What do you think he's going to do? I think he's going to plunder that temple, kill everybody, and run off, because he's vile. Hey, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this. I may have made a few errors there, but that's the way it goes. Thank you so much for watching.